The year 2042 had ushered in humanity's most ambitious era. Commercial space travel was no longer the stuff of science fiction, but an everyday reality. Sleek spacecraft departed from orbital stations, hourly ferrying passengers to lunar colonies and research outposts scattered across the solar system. The dream of the stars had finally become accessible to ordinary citizens, though at extraordinary prices. In the heart of Lanzarote, Spain, the International Biological Research Center stood as a testament to humanity's scientific achievements. Its gleaming white towers punctured the volcanic landscape, housing some of the world's most advanced laboratories and brilliant minds. Among them was Dr. Lathan Van, a virologist whose reputation for groundbreaking work in extraterrestrial pathogen research had earned her respect across the global scientific community. Dr. Van moved through her laboratory with practiced efficiency, her dark eyes focused on the holographic displays that floated above her workstation. The lab's sterile environment hummed with the constant whisper of air filtration systems, designed to contain even the most microscopic of threats. Through the reinforced windows, she could see the Atlantic Ocean stretching endlessly toward the horizon, its surface dotted with the occasional research vessel. The global health monitoring network, an interconnected web of sensors and data streams, painted a real-time picture of human health across the planet's major cities. Dr. Van had spent the better part of her career studying the theoretical risks of cosmic pathogens, preparing humanity for the day when life beyond Earth might pose a biological threat. She had never imagined that day would come so soon, or in such an unexpected form. It was during her routine morning briefing when the first reports arrived. Deep space monitoring stations had detected an irregular trajectory change in Asteroid 2004 XE27, a relatively small, celestial body that had been tracked for decades. What made this particular asteroid noteworthy wasn't its size or composition, but its sudden deviation from its predicted orbital path. Dr. Van called out Dr. Marcus Way, her longtime colleague and genetic engineering specialist, as he hurried toward her workstation. His usually calm demeanor betrayed hints of excitement and concern. "You need to see the trajectory data from XE27. Something's not right." The holographic display shifted to show the asteroid's path through space, a glowing thread weaving between planetary orbits. The data revealed an impossible scenario. XE27 had collided with Sentinel-7, one of Earth's advanced exploration satellites, and was now hurtling directly toward the home planet. Within hours, the scientific community was buzzing with activity. The asteroid's impact with Earth was inevitable, though calculations suggested it would strike the Pacific Ocean rather than populated landmasses. The impact zone was predicted to be roughly 800 kilometers west of the Chilean coast, in deep international waters. As days passed, the anticipation grew palpable. Space agencies worldwide deployed recovery vessels to the impact site, hoping to retrieve whatever remained of both the asteroid and the valuable satellite technology. Dr. Van joined the international response team, her expertise in cosmic biology deemed essential for analyzing any unusual materials the asteroid might carry. The impact occurred at 14:23 GMT on a Tuesday afternoon. The asteroid, roughly the size of a city bus, struck the Pacific with tremendous force, sending massive shockwaves rippling through the ocean. Within 6 hours, the recovery ship Neptune's Pride had located the impact site and begun retrieving debris. The samples they brought back were unlike anything previously encountered. The asteroid fragments contained a peculiar dust-like substance that seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly iridescence. Initial scans revealed complex molecular structures that defied easy classification. Part mineral, part organic, part something entirely unknown. Dr. Van insisted on personally overseeing the initial analysis. She had spent years preparing protocols for exactly this scenario, and every precaution was taken. The samples were transported to Lanzarote under maximum containment protocols, sealed within triple-layered isolation chambers that could theoretically contain anything from viruses to nuclear material. The laboratory chosen for the analysis was BSL-4, the highest level of biological containment available. Dr. Van and her team donned full-body positive pressure suits, their movements careful and deliberate as they approached the alien material. The chamber's atmosphere was completely isolated from the outside world, with air filtration systems that could catch particles measured in nanometers. It was Dr. Wei who first noticed the unusual behavior of the substance. Under microscopic examination, the material appeared to be releasing microscopic droplets of liquid, almost like perspiration from a living organism. These droplets contained structures that resembled viruses, but with characteristics that challenged everything known about viral biology. "The genetic complexity is unprecedented," Dr. Van murmured into her suit's communication system as she studied the data streaming across her visor. "This isn't just a virus, it's like a complete biological toolkit." The containment breach occurred on a Thursday morning, during what should have been a routine sample preparation procedure. A microscopic droplet of the viral liquid invisible to the naked eye escaped during the transfer process between containment vessels. The laboratory's sensors didn't detect the breach immediately. The substance's unique properties somehow allowed it to evade their monitoring systems. Dr. Maria Gonzalez, a young research assistant, was the first to be exposed. She had been working late, conducting spectroscopic analysis on a neighboring workstation. By the time the containment breach was discovered, she had been breathing the laboratory air for over 6 hours. The symptoms began within hours, a pattern that would soon become terrifyingly familiar. Dr. Gonzalez developed a severe fever that peaked at 41 degrees Celsius, far higher than any normal illness. Her colleagues, following strict protocol, immediately quarantined her in the medical wing. But the fever was just the beginning. Within 12 hours, Dr. Gonzalez reported dramatic changes in her sensory perception. Colors appeared more vivid, sounds became crisp and distinct even through the insulated walls of her quarantine room. Her reflexes had become lightning fast, and physical strength tests showed improvements that should have been impossible. "This isn't a pathogen," Dr. Van realized as she reviewed the medical data. "It's a catalyst, something that's triggering rapid biological changes at the cellular level." The virus spread through the laboratory's ventilation system with remarkable efficiency. Despite the advanced filtration, the pathogen seemed to find ways to circulate through the building. By the end of the first week, 17 staff members showed symptoms. All followed the same pattern: fever, followed by sensory enhancement, increased physical capabilities, and accelerated healing. More alarming was the virus's ability to spread beyond the laboratory. Infected staff members who had left the facility during the incubation period unknowingly carried the pathogen to airports, hotels, and homes. Within 10 days, cases were reported in Madrid, London, and New York. The international response was swift, but perhaps too late. Airports implemented thermal screening cities, activated emergency health protocols, and the World Health Organization declared a global health emergency. But the virus had already seeded itself in major population centers across 5 continents. Dr. Van found herself at the center of a global crisis, leading an international team of virologists, geneticists, and epidemiologists in a desperate race to understand the pathogen. The virus defied conventional wisdom. It didn't kill its hosts, but instead fundamentally altered them. The changes weren't random mutations, but seemed to follow a specific pattern, as if guided by some underlying intelligence. The transformed humans, who came to be called evolved, or EVOs, exhibited capabilities that bordered on the superhuman. Enhanced vision allowed them to see clearly in minimal light conditions. Their hearing became so acute they could detect conversations through thick walls. Physical strength increased by an average of 300%, and their immune systems became nearly impervious to other diseases. More disturbing were the psychological changes. EVOs reported heightened empathy and emotional sensitivity, but also an increased sense of superiority over uninfected humans. They began to see themselves as the next step in human evolution, viewing ordinary humans dubbed originals as an obsolete predecessor species. Society began to fracture along evolutionary lines. Cities implemented segregation protocols as tension mounted between the two groups. The Evos, despite representing only about 15% of the global population, possessed physical and intellectual advantages that made them formidable. Several nations began recruiting Evos for military and scientific programs, viewing them as strategic assets. Dr. Van worked tirelessly to understand the virus's true nature. Her research revealed that it operated unlike any known pathogen. Instead of hijacking cellular machinery to reproduce, it seemed to rewrite genetic code with surgical precision, activating dormant sequences and introducing entirely new ones. The changes were permanent and apparently heritable. As weeks turned to months, the Evo's capabilities continued to evolve. A subset developed what researchers termed psychic resonance, the ability to communicate telepathically with other Evos, and more troubling, to influence the emotions and thoughts of originals. These individuals, representing perhaps 5% of all Evos, formed the core of what would become known as the Evolutionary Council. The Evolutionary Council emerged as a political force demanding recognition of Evo rights and privileges commensurate with their enhanced capabilities. They argued that the virus represented humanity's next evolutionary step, and that Evos deserved leadership roles in society. Their most radical members called for complete separation, suggesting that Evos establish their own nation-state. Tensions reached a breaking point during the Manhattan Incident. A group of psychically gifted Evos demonstrated their power by inducing mass calm during a violent protest, essentially mind-controlling thousands of people simultaneously. The display was both impressive and terrifying, proving that Evos could manipulate large groups of originals if they chose to. Global leaders convened emergency sessions at the United Nations, with both Evo and original representatives present. The debates were intense, often heated, as humanity struggled to define its future. Lieutenant Colonel Ana Lopez, representing the UN's Biological Crisis Response Team, found herself negotiating between two increasingly divergent species of human. Dr. Van's greatest breakthrough came during this period of intense political tension. Her analysis revealed that the virus wasn't random. It contained encoded instructions, almost like a biological program. The implications were staggering. The virus appeared to be created by an intelligence far beyond human understanding. "We're not dealing with natural evolution," she announced to the UN Assembly, her voice carrying across the packed auditorium. "This virus is a piece of biotechnology sent by an extraterrestrial civilization. The question isn't just how to control it, but why it was sent and what its creators intended." The revelation changed everything. Humanity faced not just an internal crisis, but the knowledge that they were being watched, possibly judged by beings from beyond Earth. The virus wasn't an accident or a weapon. It was a test, or perhaps a gift. Working with Dr. Tran-Min Kwong, a psychologist specializing in enhanced human behavior, Dr. Van developed new protocols for managing Evo-original relations. They established counseling centers, where both groups could work through their fears and prejudices, fostering understanding rather than division. The breakthrough in virus control came from an unexpected source. Dr. Van discovered that the virus could be modified, not eliminated, but altered. She developed what became known as the regulation protocol, a series of treatments that could either accelerate or suppress the evolutionary process, depending on the recipient's choice. The protocol offered hope for both communities. Originals who chose to evolve could undergo controlled transformation, avoiding the traumatic fever phase. Evos who experienced negative side effects could have their enhancements modulated. Most importantly, the process could be reversed, though few Evos chose this option. As the crisis evolved toward resolution, a new social structure emerged. The global community established evolution zones, specially designed cities, where Evos and originals could coexist while working together on projects that benefited all humanity. The first and largest of these zones was built on an artificial island in the Pacific, not far from the asteroid's original impact site. The Evolutionary Council, no longer a revolutionary body, transformed into an advisory organization. They worked with original governments to develop policies that protected both communities, while preventing the abuse of EVO advantages. Anti-discrimination laws protected originals from EVO manipulation, while ensuring EVOs weren't persecuted for their enhanced abilities. Dr. Van often found herself reflecting on the changes as she stood in her new laboratory on Evolution Island. The facility was a marvel of both original engineering and EVO enhancement, featuring systems that seemed to border on the impossible just months earlier. EVOs with enhanced spatial reasoning had designed impossible geometries, while original crafters had built them with traditional but perfected techniques. The international community ratified the Evolution Accord, a comprehensive treaty, recognizing both EVOs and originals as equally valid branches of humanity. The agreement established protocols for cooperation, trade, and mutual defense, while preserving the right of individuals to choose their evolutionary path. Research into the virus's origins continued, with joint EVO original teams studying the cosmos for signs of its creators. Radio telescopes picked up faint signals that seemed to respond to the presence of evolved humans, suggesting that the transformation had indeed been monitored from afar. Dr. Van, now in her 50s, had chosen to undergo partial evolution herself, enough to enhance her research capabilities without fully transforming. She found the decision deeply personal and understood why so many others struggled with the choice. The line between human and post-human was no longer clear, but perhaps that ambiguity was the point. The younger generation, those born after the transformation, showed no such hesitation. Children of EVO original couples displayed a fascinating genetic blend, inheriting some enhancements naturally, while retaining the full spectrum of human emotion and creativity. These hybrid children might represent humanity's true future, a species that had evolved beyond its origins while retaining its essential humanity. As she watched the sunset paint the Pacific in brilliant oranges and purples, Dr. Van considered the irony of their situation. Humanity had spent centuries dreaming of meeting alien intelligence, never imagining that first contact would come in the form of microscopic messengers that changed them from within. The virus had been a test she was now certain, a way for an advanced civilization to determine if humanity was ready to join a larger community of intelligent species. The fact that humans had chosen cooperation over domination, had found ways to bridge their evolutionary divide, suggested they had passed. Reports from deep space missions increasingly supported this theory. Probe data indicated structures and signals, suggesting a vast network of civilizations, all seemingly connected by similar evolutionary triggers. Earth appeared to be joining something much larger than anyone had originally imagined. Dr. Van's final research project focused on communication with the virus's creators. Using modified EVO psychic abilities combined with advanced quantum communication arrays, they had begun to detect patterns in cosmic radiation that seemed deliberately crafted. The messages, when finally decoded, contained mathematical proofs and scientific concepts that pushed the boundaries of human understanding. The transformed world wasn't perfect. Tensions still existed between communities, and new challenges emerged regularly. Some EVOs developed abilities that defied current understanding of physics, leading to new ethical dilemmas about the limits of enhancement. Political systems struggled to accommodate representatives who could literally sense their constituents' needs and emotions. But humanity had proven adaptable. The same species that had survived ice ages and world wars had navigated biological transformation. Schools taught both traditional human history and evolution studies. Art and literature explored themes of identity and change with unprecedented depth. Sports leagues developed separate categories for EVOs and originals, though mixed teams became increasingly popular. The question that haunted Dr. Van in her quieter moments wasn't whether humanity had changed. That was indisputable. The question was whether they had changed for the better. The enhanced empathy of many EVOs had led to decreased conflict and increased cooperation. Medical advances driven by both original innovation and EVO intuition had eliminated several diseases that had plagued humanity for millennia. Yet there were costs. Some originals felt genuinely obsolete despite legal protections and social safety nets. A minority of EVOs had developed what psychologists termed evolution anxiety, the fear that they might continue changing in ways they couldn't control or predict. Children in mixed families sometimes struggled with identity issues that previous generations couldn't have imagined. Dr. Van's memoirs, published on the 5th anniversary of the asteroid impact, became required reading in schools across both communities. In her conclusion, she wrote, "We asked the cosmos for knowledge, and it gave us transformation. We sought the stars, and they sought us first." The true test of our evolution isn't in our enhanced abilities or extended lifespans, but in our capacity to remain human in spirit while becoming more than human in fact. The story of Asteroid 2004, XE27, and its viral cargo had become humanity's new creation myth, a tale of how they transcended their biological limitations while preserving their essential character. Museums displayed pieces of the original asteroid, alongside artifacts from the early days of the transformation, reminding visitors of how quickly everything had changed. As Dr. Van approached retirement, she often visited the memorial built at the impact site. The structure, designed collaboratively by EVO and original architects, rose from the ocean depths, like a crystalline mountain, its surfaces reflecting both the vastness of space and the depths of the sea. Names of those who had died during the transition were etched in its walls, alongside those who had helped guide humanity through its metamorphosis. The memorial served another purpose. It housed the Global Evolution Archive, containing samples of the original virus and documentation of every aspect of humanity's transformation. Future generations, whatever form they might take, would need to understand their origins. Standing before the memorial, Dr. Van reflected on the lessons learned. The virus hadn't been humanity's end or beginning, but rather a bridge between what they had been and what they were becoming. The creators, whoever they were, had given humanity a choice: evolve together or fall apart. That they had chosen unity, however imperfect, suggested hope for whatever challenges lay ahead. The stars, once distant and alien, now felt like a neighborhood humanity was just beginning to explore. Reports from enhanced deep space missions crewed by both EVOs and originals suggested that the galaxy was far more populated and complex than anyone had imagined. Earth's transformation appeared to be part of a much larger pattern, a cosmic process by which intelligent species graduated to new stages of existence. Dr. Van's final paper, published posthumously, proposed that the virus represented just the first step in humanity's cosmic education. The enhanced humans were already detecting signals and patterns that suggested additional transformations might be possible, though not necessarily inevitable. The choice, as always, would remain with humanity itself. As Earth entered its second decade of post-transformation existence, the division between EVO and original had begun to blur in unexpected ways. Technology developed by originals often achieved effects similar to EVO abilities, while some EVOs chose to suppress their enhancements to live more traditionally human lives. The boundaries of humanity itself had become fluid, defined more by choice and culture than by biology. Young people growing up in this new world saw the distinction between EVO and original, as their grandparents might have viewed differences in height or eye color notable, but not definitive. Mixed communities flourished, with each group contributing their unique strengths to collective goals. The asteroid that had once threatened to divide humanity had ultimately united them in ways never before imagined. Dr. Van's legacy lived on in the institutions she had helped create, the protocols she had developed, and the bridges she had built between two branches of the human family tree. In the end, the question that remained wasn't what it meant to be human in an age of enhancement, but what it meant to be conscious beings in a universe that clearly had plans for all who dwelt within it? The answer, like humanity itself, continued to evolve. The virus had been a messenger, a teacher, and a test all in one. That humanity had not just survived, but thrived in its wake, spoke to something essential about the species, an adaptability and resilience that transcended any biological modification. Whether they called themselves Evo or Original Enhanced or Traditional, they were still recognizably human in their curiosity, their compassion, and their endless capacity for growth. As new generations looked up at the stars, they saw not empty space, but a vast community waiting to be joined. The transformation had been just the beginning of humanity's true adventure, a journey not just through space, but toward whatever they had the courage and wisdom to become. The story of the alien virus would be told for generations, not as a cautionary tale, but as a testament to humanity's ability to face the impossible and emerge stronger. From a small asteroid in the depths of space had come the seeds of a new future, one where the children of Earth might finally take their place among the stars as something greater than they had dared to dream.